Hello, welcome to another edition of Triple Threat Sports. Well, hot stove baseball is now in full effect as we are in December of 2013. Today, a number of moves were made. Rumors are flying around. Fans are all hopeful. Some fans are pissed off. There's nothing better than an offseason of baseball. Now, let's talk about our team here, the New York Mets. Now, some of you loyal viewers, and you have to be pretty loyal to sit through my last episode on the Mets,
Yeah.
may have seen a few episodes back, I gave a long presentation of what I felt the Mets should be doing this offseason. And I envisioned the Mets with money, finally, for the first time in years, having money to spend on free agents. I envisioned them spending a lot of money on people like Shin-Soo Choo, the outfielder, Urban Santana, and guys like that. Now, having watched the offseason evolve over the last few weeks, it's pretty clear that the Mets are not going in that direction. They're not going to spend money on the premium free agents. They're going to go a different way. And actually, in hindsight, I actually appreciate that plan, that logic, even more than my previous plan. So far, the Mets have made one move. They've signed an outfielder, Chris Young, formerly of the Oakland A's. And they signed him to a one-year contract for $7 million. And I thought it was a good move. It was praised by a lot of the baseball websites. Baseball Prospectus, Fangraphs liked it. Chance to be a buy low, high payout move. And frankly, given the Mets' budget and given the position of the Harvey injury and the position of the team and where the whole team is at the moment now, the entire team from top to bottom, it's a good move. And moves like that, intelligent moves like that, are probably what the Mets are going to continue to make, I hope, and what they should make. Now let's talk about Chris Young briefly. Chris Young is a guy who put up very good numbers early in his career. Last year he had a bit of an offseason, hence he only got a one-year deal. But one thing he has going for him is that he hits left-handed pitching very well. Now, as Met fans and as baseball fans, you hear when teams are rebuilding, which the Mets are rebuilding, they've been rebuilding for some time, you hear, well, teams should follow this model. There's a model out there now called the Red Sox model. The Red Sox bought a lot of guys in, a lot of free agents last year. They didn't pay that much money for individually, but collectively they spent a lot of money on free agents. Each free agent was $8 million, not $10 million. They bought quantity over top premium guys. And they ended up adding it to a solid core, and they won the World Series. The Red Sox model, that's one model. Then you hear the Cardinal model, build through the farm system. The Cardinals have by far the best farm system in baseball. I think just about every guy on the team came up through the farm system. They made the World Series this year. Last year they made the NLCS. The year before that they made the World Series. So what model should the Mets approach? There's another model called the Oakland A's model that they've been doing in recent years. And I have a feeling that's what the Mets are going to do. And that revolves around platooning. Platooning is, just in case you don't know, you have two players for a single position, and then you start one player against some pitches and one player against another. You know, if one player hits left-handed pitch as well, you start that player. If the other player hits right-handed hit as well, you start the other player. So I have a feeling that's what the Mets are going to be doing. Now, given that they've already signed Chris Young, who hits left-handed hitters very well, what other moves should the Mets make? Well, let's go through the whole team. At catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, who was part of the R.A. Dickey trade last season, and has been projected as a future All-Star catcher. He's going to be the starting catcher for the Mets. There's no question about that. Okay, David Wright, the franchise, the all-time great Met, is going to hold down his place at third base. Okay? Daniel Murphy, a very solid hitter, and a guy who's actually improved his defense, and he actually had a great year of running the bases last year. He received some praise for that. He's probably going to be on second base. Now, first base has been a problem for a couple of years. Ike Davis, who they had figured to be their long-term answer, as all Met fans know, he stumbled the last few years. Now, given that platooning may be the future, I feel might be the future for the Mets this coming season. The Mets do have guys. They do have a potential guys on the team on the roster now who can platoon at first base in the event they wanted to jettison Ike Davis. Lucas Duda, a guy who's been on the Mets the last few years. He's been up and down. He's been to the minors. He showed great power potential, and then he's kind of faded. He's been in the outfield where he's been terrible defensively. His natural position is first base. Interesting enough, over the course of his career, Lucas Duda has a career 124 OPS plus. OPS plus is a stat that measures on base plus slugging percentage against league average. So 100 would be average. And Duda's OPS plus is 124, above average, against right-handed pitching. Now, another player on the team who came up last year, he became sort of a fan favorite for a little while because he was pretty clutch. Josh Satin. Now, he hasn't been around long, Satin. He's only had about 150 plate appearances, mostly against left-handed pitching. But he has, in that short sample size period, he did hit lefties very well. His OPS plus against lefties is 131. Now, if you have one guy who, again, admittedly a small sample, who hits 131 against lefties, 131 OPS plus against lefties, and you have a guy who, over his career, over a number of seasons now, 112 OPS plus against righties, that's not a bad platoon if they can keep that up. So I feel that's probably what the Mets are going to do. They're going to have Duda and Satin in the platoon. Duda will play against righties, Satin will play against lefties. Not bad if it worked. Potentially that could work out pretty well. First base, I'm going to pencil that in. Second base, again, Murphy. Now, shortstop was the Mets' worst position last year. It was so bad, I mean, I might as well have played shortstop for the Mets. I couldn't have done worse than the guys that they actually had out there. That's not a joke, by the way. That's actually the truth. Now, the Mets have a first baseman who he's really been, Ike Davis has been bad the last 2 years, but he has shown he does have 30 home run a year power, and he has shown potential. Very frustrating to watch over the course of his career as a Met fans, but he has shown potential. Now there might be a team that's willing to take him and trade him for a shortstop. And I propose to trade Ike Davis to the Tampa Bay Rays for their shortstop, Escobar. The Rays can use the first baseman, and Ike Davis he's whatever hitting problems he has, he's a good fielding first baseman. He's very good at that. And he can also DH if they want him to. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays they're the smartest organization in baseball. Andrew Friedman is the best GM in baseball. Now, he might not go for that trade. He might be a little too smart for it. But it's worth asking. If they can get a guy like Escobar who comes in, he's making $5 million this year. He's one of the few shortstops last year that was league average in fielding and in hitting, which is actually, for a shortstop, that's excellent if you can get that. And he had a $5 million option for next season. Again, below market value for him. If the Mets can add Escobar in and trade Davis, and Davis can actually, if Davis fulfills his potential with the Rays, they make it the better of a deal. But he's not going to do it with the Mets, so you can't keep him around. I don't feel. I think he's had his opportunity here. I think we need to change the scenery. Bring in Escobar to play shortstop. That will solidify that position. We'll add 2 or 3 WAR to the team. When the Mets last year were actually in a negative WAR category. Shortstop actually cost the Mets wins last year. Escobar is a solid shortstop. And I think it's a fair trade with the Rays. I think it's realistic. When they talk about trades, you got to think realistic. And most of the time, people propose trades. Us as fans, we propose trades, and it's sort of insane. That one could be realistic. Assuming they can bring Escobar in, that would be a great move. Again, right at third, Murphy at second. Now, in the outfield, Juan Lagares came up last year, played excellent defense, had about a 2+ WAR for the time he was in center field for the Mets. Young player, showed some potential with the bat. And actually I hear he's hitting the ball well and with the ball now. I haven't seen that, of course, but he is. That's what I hear. The Mets are probably going to give him a shot to take over center field long term. They're going to give him a shot coming up this season to solidify his place there. They signed Chris Young for one corner outfield. Now there's another corner outfielder out there. Again, thinking with platoons. Given that Chris Young hits left-handed pitching very well, you want to find a guy that can hit right-handed pitching. And I think I found a guy. And again, he'll come cheap. Given the Mets don't want to spend that much money. Nate McLeod, formerly of Boston. He's Baltimore, not Boston. He's a free agent. His career OPS plus against righties, 109. Not great. 109. It's above league average. But for a corner outfielder, you'd like it to be a little more than that. But he's at least average for an outfielder. You could bring him in, platoon him with Chris Young. That's a solid platoon. Chris Young against lefties, Nate McLeod against righties. McGarrison second. Now, right field. Here's where I think the Mets are going to have to spend some money. And I don't see them bringing in Shin-Soo Choo. He's going to be too expensive for their taste at the moment, even though he would be the best player out available for that spot. But there's another guy that'll come cheaper, and they've already, in fact, met with him last week, and they seem to be in negotiation with him now. Curtis Granderson of the New York Yankees, formerly of the New York Yankees, great power, even outside of Yankee Stadium, good defense. Signed to a 2 or 3, a 3 or 4 year contract. Maybe hopefully 3 years would be nice. Add him in right field. Now you got a lineup of Denard, Duda Satin platooning at first base, Murphy, Escobar if they can make that trade, David Wright, Juan Garrison in center field, Curtis Granderson in right field, and a platoon of McLeod, Nate McLeod, who will come cheap, and he's available now. The reason they can't sign him. And he has some good things going for him. He doesn't miss the ball. He's got good plate discipline. Up the Mets' alley as far as the kind of player they want. You platoon him with Chris Young. Now suddenly you got a respectable lineup. And if the pitching works out, if Wheeler even with Harvey on DL, if Wheeler can pan out, and Neese can stay consistent, and G can stay consistent, maybe they have something. Just don't forget, there's 2 wild cards now. And there's another thing that under the radar now, and Met fans who are going to watch this, don't forget I said this. If you noticed in the playoffs last year, certainly the Cardinals especially, but other teams, the Royals didn't make the playoffs, but they had a good year. The Red Sox, power arms in the bullpen. Now the Mets had Parnell, who had a good season this year. Now he injured his neck, and he had to have surgery on his neck, but he should be ready for spring training from what we hear. He's a power arm out of the bullpen, a closer. If he can stay consistent, he has the closer's job. But some other guys under the radar who can, if you can get a good, bullpens are very year to year. They're very inconsistent. Bullpens are tricky. They're a year to year thing. Relievers aren't consistent. But if Parnell could come back from that injury and hold down a closer's role, the Mets got Vic Black in that deal last year in the Marlon Bird, John Buck deal. They traded to Pittsburgh in August. They brought back Vic Black, had the cannon for an arm, real gas out of the bullpen. He showed some flashes for the Mets. He throws very hard. They got a guy in the minor leagues this past year, Jack Leathersich, who Met fans have been kind of excited about, waiting to see his debate coming. I think we'll see it this year. Again, a serious gas out of the bullpen. One of only, I think, 3 minor league relief pitchers last year who struck out 100 guys for the year. And they made a signing about a month ago of a guy named Joel Carreno, formerly of the Blue Jays organization, who last year in the minor leagues struck out 90 guys in something like 65 innings. Right?
Yep.
And so if those 4 guys, if Parnell can come back, they got Black, they got Leatherwich set to make his debate, and they signed this guy, Carreno. If those guys can throw the gas that they should be able to, and that bullpen could be locked down this year, that's a game changer. So if the Mets do what I say, if they stick to the platoons in the lineup, if they can get some good innings good consistent innings out of their starting pitching, if Wheeler can pan out, and if these guys in the bullpen, again, don't forget these guys, Mets fans, if these 4 guys in the bullpen, Parnell, Black, Leatherwich, and Carreno, those are all hard throwers, and you need hard throwers out of the bullpen these days. If those guys can come on and really throw some gas out of the bullpen and really have a good lockdown bullpen, we may be in for an interesting year. Thank you.
What about John Roach?
Hi, I'm Lionel S. L. Ray, and I approve this message.